Does God's word really have something to say about trading? I believe it does. I believe that God's word is applicable no matter what. Now, sure, in some cases it is very cut and dried. He has something to say about murder, pretty easy. Stealing, absolutely. Trading, I mean, how can the Bible, that was written in parts 2,000 in parts 4,000 years ago, have anything to say about the modern world of trading? I mean, the Japanese candlesticks were invented in the 1700s in Japan. The Bible was clearly not written in Japan in the 1700s, so how can we find anything in the Bible dealing with trading? Well, God's word is applicable in all walks of life, usually because it's dealing with us and our hearts and how we are reacting to the situation of the people around us. We're going to pick up in Luke chapter 19, verses 11 to 26. Now, in this story, in the beginning part of Luke chapter 19, Jesus has been having supper with a guy named Zacchaeus, the wee little man. And after supper, he tells the story, a parable, about a noble and his 10 servants and giving each of his servants some money. Now, Luke chapter 19, verse 13, we're going to pick up there. It says, "So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and said to them, 'Do business until I come.'" Now, the phrase there, "do business until I come," is important. So he gives them a mina. Now, what's a mina? You looked and you can't find the currency exchange rate for the USD to the MNA. Well, a mina was about 4 months' salary for your average daily worker. And I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time for a very good reason. It's actually pronounced mana. And I know what you're thinking, because that's what I was thinking. It's pronounced mana, not.
Phenomena.
Yes, yes. You're welcome for getting that stuck in your head. Anyway, we're going to call it minas from now on. So he told them, the noble told his servants, "Do business until I return." Now, the word that is we get "do business" from is actually this word here in Greek. You got that? Yeah. That's. I'm not going to begin to try and pronounce that because it is in fact Greek to me. The English translation of that is this, which I'm still not going to try and pronounce. The point being, it is translated to carry on the business of a banker or trader. Absolutely. Look at that. Now, I said that the Bible is not always specific to the situation. In this case, it is. Does the Bible mention trading? Yes, in fact, it does mention trading, and not just once. You can look over in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 and 30. Jesus tells a very similar parable, and this one there's only 3 servants. And there's, I don't believe it's a mina or mana. See, I said it, and you thought it, didn't you? It doesn't involve minas. And the actual word there that's translated to this is different. But go look for it yourself. Now, when the noble comes back from his journey, because that's why he's giving them money, he's saying, "Do business until I return." He returns and he starts interviewing his servants. And the first who he talks to had profits to give him. Matter of fact, the first one he talks to had 10. He gave him one, and the guy comes back with 10. I mean, that right there is a heck of a return. Now, we don't know how long the noble had been off. Maybe it was gone for a month. Maybe he was gone for a year or 10 years. We don't know. But the return on investment was pretty high on the first 2 servants. He gets to the third one in line, and this guy had just taken the mana. You did it again, didn't you? He'd taken the mina and wrapped it in a handkerchief and buried it. And when the nobleman got back, he unearthed it and gave it back to him. And there's a whole other story behind that. There's more that you can learn. A lot of people get bogged down. I don't want to say bogged down. A lot of people focus on that third servant. I don't want to get bogged down in that. What I want to focus on is those first 2. They use their skills and their God-given ability to earn money. I mean, the master would not have given them the money in the first place if he didn't think they could do the job. He was counting on it, as a matter of fact. Now, one of the most important things to focus on here is what they did was a reflection of that nobleman. He left them in charge and left. He's not going to micromanage them. He's leaving them behind, not only in charge of his money, but in charge of his reputation. They were faithful not only in what they were given, but I have to believe they were faithful in how they did business. I mean, how they traded was probably as important, if not more important, than what they traded, how much they got back, or even that they traded. Because, I mean, the nobleman could have come back and, yeah, sure, found his tenfold return on investment, but what if he had found that and there was a whole line of people at his door with pitchforks and torches talking about how poorly they were treated by his servants that stole this money from them or swindled them. So it was the way in which they traded that was probably the most important thing, because this guy was referred to as a nobleman, not just some guy with money, but a noble, somebody of importance. And the people in the area would have known who these servants were, not only individually, but who they represented, for lack of a better term, whose they were. They were a reflection of their master. Now, when he gets back, what did they do? They gave what they had earned back to him. They didn't keep it for themselves. And this, I'm not going to be preaching prosperity gospel here. They end up, the master did give them, when the one who turned in 10 got 10. I don't know if that meant that he made 20 and got 10. We don't know. We don't know if it's a profit sharing plan or just a reward. We have no idea. All we know is that he was rewarded in direct proportion to how much he gave. Again, I'm not preaching prosperity gospel here. These guys could have turned in their money and all died of heart attacks immediately, or been hit by a bus, and they still, well, probably not back then, probably trampled by a herd of goats. They could have died immediately, and they still would have been faithful servants and would have been happy in what they had done, regardless of the reward they got. In the end, the most important thing is that they gave it back to their master. So, whether your job is saving kids from a burning building or you're a debt collecting telemarketer, what you do is a direct reflection on God, is a direct reflection on what he has done for you. And yes, it may be hard to think, hey, I'm a day trader. I'm out there scalping the dollar CAD, the loon, as they call it. How can I take this and honor God in what I do? I mean, there are a lot of people in this world who honor God, and it's so obvious and evident. And you got people who sing for a living. You got football players kneeling after a game, telling the world this is whose we are. But God will honor anything that you do as long as you honor Him. So, can you take this and point people to Jesus? Absolutely. And that is the most important thing about being a Christian trader. Not being successful, but pointing people back to whose we are. All right. Until next time.